Hey everyone, producer Grant here. This episode of Signals from the Deep is part 2 of our talk with Everett Fitzhugh. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, stop here and go listen to the previous episode. Thanks.
February 17th, 2022.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
JT Brown and I had an opportunity in Winnipeg to call the first, have the first all-black television broadcast in NHL history. John Forsland had national duty, and huge thanks to him. You know Johnny as well as anyone. Like, he doesn't like missing games, right? And he was very, very kind and gracious enough to let me keep the seat warm for a night. And JT and I, we hit it off from day one. Like, I remember we both started kind of around the same time-ish, I think. And, him and I had become pretty quick friends. So it was more than just an opportunity to make history. I was calling a game with my boy. Like, that was fun, man. I had so much fun calling that game. I learned the different styles between Dave and JT. I'd only ever worked with Dave and then working with JT. So, navigating that was awesome, but it was really cool. And I think that trip was even more special because it was myself, it was JT, Zach Peggins, who was on our social team, Marcus Allen, who is on our production team, and then Jason, who was our old masseuse. All of us black, all of us on the same road trip. And you had 5 black employees on one NHL road trip. Like, that's historic in itself. Like, I have a picture of it. I want to frame it. That was really, really cool to be a part of it. And, JT and I, we still talk about it to this day of kind of what that moment meant. And, we'll revisit it. And I will say, like, radio and TV are so different. Like, so, my goodness. Katie, my boss here with the Kraken, she texts me like maybe after the first media timeout. She goes, "You're doing great, but just remember, you can slow down a bit. You're not on radio." So I was like, my bad. I was like, oh crap, I'm getting fired already. No, but like that was a challenge in and of itself, right? Trying to call a game for television and not for radio. But that was awesome. That was so much fun. And like I said, the historical aspect of it was great. But for me personally, like, being able to share a booth with now one of my good friends. I mean, how many folks get to say they get to go to work with one of their good friends? And I got to do that for a night, and that was fun.
And also, how many folks get to say that they have a hockey card after them? Upper Deck, heroic inspiration line of cards. How was that process? That seemed pretty special.
They reached out to me. There is Jeff Doseth, who works for Upper Deck. He emailed me. He called me one time, actually, and he was like, "Hey, I'm a lifelong hockey fan, and I'm sitting in traffic here in California, and my son's in the car, and we were tuning into Sirius XM. We're listening to some games, and you popped up, and my son was just enthralled. And we loved the way you call a game, so I had to find out more about this guy.
Another fan. What's new?
Another fan.
What's new?
Shocker.
Another fan.
I promise I'm humble, people. So then he's like, I got to find out more about this Kraken broadcaster. So he finds out about me, finds out that I'm black, and reaches out to me, and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you about this initiative that we've been doing, and we'd love to put you on one of our cards. And I was floored because I grew up collecting cards, right? Like, I probably got 5,000 cards from when I was a kid. And I think we all were hitting home runs, Game 7 of the World Series in our backyard, scoring the overtime winner in our backyard in the Cup final. We were all doing that as kids, and we were all wanting to have our faces on a baseball card or a hockey card or a football card one day. So, again, going back to when 8-year-old Everett was so happy when the Kraken beat the Avalanche, like 8-year-old Everett was ecstatic that I was able to get, that I was able to have this opportunity. So, no, that was awesome. We've done this whole podcast and I'm just talking about myself, which is very uncomfortable. Like I hate talking about myself.
You do it well though.
I don't know if that's good stuff. I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's very good.
But very good. When you have a card, it's one of those things. I'm like, man, is this like the pinnacle of like self-centeredness? Like, am I that much of a what? No. It was kind of uncomfortable at first just because like I didn't like talking about myself. It was a huge honor to be able, but then, like we were just talking about, you talk about the importance and you realize the importance of this, right? I mean, there's going to be a kid out there who's going to have this card and who's going to be wanting to get involved in hockey or in a space that they may feel like they don't belong. It could be anything. It could be sports. It could be medicine. It could be astrophysics, right? You never know. Yeah. But if I can help whoever find their place and their value and their worth within whatever sport or whatever space or whatever area that they want to be in. I mean, that's why we're here, right? That's ultimately why we're here. So it took a bit because I was like, oh man, like, all right, I'll write this thing, but like, I don't like talking about myself. I want to be humble. And hockey, like hockey culture, right? We're supposed to be humble. We don't brag. We don't, the name on the front's more important than the name on the back. So it took a little bit for me to get comfortable with it, but now that it's there, I mean, it's such a cool thing to say and to have. And like I've already got, like, my son's got like 6 of them in his room. I don't know if he's gonna give them to his friends when he's older. I don't know, but I'll keep a little sleeve for him. Maybe my mom's got like 2,000 of them already.
There's countless of them hanging up here around the office. Yeah. Right. It's you and then Bowie right next to it.
I know.
Bowie's got his own.
He's got his own card. I got
you too.
I got to find out what the signature count is because I think Bowie.
I've got one of each.
I know. We both autograph them here in the office.
I just want to know what the stats are on the back.
Oh,
so what your stat line is?
My stat line.
Who's got the bigger head according to the stat line?
Oh, prime me. So actually, my one hockey stat ever in my hockey career, my illustrious hockey career. They didn't even put on the back of the card. I played one men's league game back when I was in Bowling Green. Okay, I was using rental skates from the New Love Pro Shop at Bowling Green State University's Falcon Ice Arena. And I won 7 of 9 faceoffs in that game. That is my singular hockey stat. Wow. That was also the first time that I'd ever put on hockey gear. I only ever put skates on. I never put the pads on, the pants on, the shells and everything. Yeah. I was like Bambi out there. Like I would go to I would like go to one blue line, and by the time I got to the blue line, the play was already coming back. So I turn back, and then I'd stumble my way to the other blue line. Oh, damn it, here comes the play again. Let me turn back around. Like I spent the entire game in the neutral zone until I can literally crawl off the ice for a line change. But I was a face-off ringer, 7 of 9. Mark it down.
There you
Boom.
go. And lacrosse, that's a hold-on position.
Pretty good right there, right?
To put a bow on this conversation for now, though the conversation obviously never stops, and as the game continues to grow and become more diverse, Tennessee State.
Oh, man.
First historically black college or university to have collegiate hockey.
Yeah.
Not just now, but moving forward.
Yeah.
You talk about important steps or landmarks or huge events that happen that hopefully can spur things on in the future. What does seeing something like that happen mean to you? And what does it mean where the game is at right now?
You know, I think when you have the buy-in from the Preds, the Nashville Predators, when you have the buy-in from the NHLPA and you have the buy-in from the league, it shows the legitimacy that we as a sport, we as a league are committed and we are invested in growing the game. Tennessee State, this is such an unbelievable moment for our sport and for growing the game. For a lot of folks who don't know, black colleges, HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, this is a lot of folks will say the birthplace of black culture. Like it is uniquely black. When you go to these campuses, I applied and I got accepted into Hampton, which is an HBCU in Virginia Beach. Ended up not going there, but it was on my short list of colleges, and it was such a different feel stepping onto that campus and being on that campus. And now you're bringing a sport to an HBCU and an opportunity to inject culture into the way that that they do the sport, right? That we do our sport. You're now going to be giving so many more kids an opportunity to witness the sport, to consume the sport, but also I think you're opening up opportunities for more minorities to play the sport, because if I'm a 5-year-old, 10-year-old kid who's just getting into hockey and maybe it's fun, but I don't know if there are the avenues there for me, but I'm a black kid and I see, whoa, Tennessee State, an HBCU that has a hockey team here. All right, like this, maybe I want to play for Tennessee State, right? We in college hockey, we grew up wanting to play for Michigan, for Minnesota, for North Dakota, Boston College. Now you're going to see these kids, Denver. Now you're going to see these kids wanting to go to Tennessee State. You're going to want to see these kids and have these kids. I want to play for them because they play for me. And that is such a cool factor and a cool thing to say. I've already talked to Kyle Boyd, who is in charge of our fan development here. Our second game of the season is in Nashville, and I'm like, whatever I need to do to get on that campus, like I want to go and talk to somebody. Yeah. I want to go visit. I want to do something, because that is I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that an HBCU program would have a hockey team. And I am now, Tennessee State is now my second favorite college hockey team in the country, behind the illustrious Bowling Green State University, and then it's Tennessee State. But like I kudos to them, kudos to the league, kudos to everybody involved with this process. It's going to be unbelievable. I think they're going to be club for a couple years, and they'll move up to varsity. I think I heard 28, 29-ish around there when they make the jump to varsity. But I'm hoping maybe Climate Pledge Arena, the Kraken will host a college hockey tournament one of these years, and I pray they're in it. Like, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, perfectly put. That's great. And with that being said, and a very important conversation. So I really appreciate your meaningful thoughts on that. Grant, do we have a listener question?
We have a listener question.
Oh my God, this is huge.
We've been putting out the call for a while.
This is huge.
I've been keeping track of them. And I got one that I think is pretty good. I've been waiting for a while to ask this one for kind of a good guest here, and since we got two family men sitting here, I think it's a good one. So this one comes from Noah Davis. He is from Seattle by way of Boston.
Love it.
First clam chowder.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to live there, so I got plenty of clam chowder back in the day.
Parked his car and have it.
Oh yeah, don't forget to call your mother. Tell her you grab his sneakers.
Apologies for all our
think he ever lost his khakis and his khakis? He loses khakis and his khakis? All right,
yeah, we'll take it out. No, it's fine.
We'll edit this in post. We'll fix it in post.
Exactly. First off, love the podcast. Keep up the good work. And I'm going to paraphrase. He's got quite a bit here, but I think I can pare it down.
Good
here.
writer.
So, when you all go home and you're sitting at the dinner table, are you talking hockey? Are you trying to see what your family has to say about the game? I mean, it's a little different for you considering most of your family works for this organization, Nick. I mean, so it may be a little more contentious in your household. But when you go home, I mean, and Shelly's been with you for this very long journey. do you talk shop when you go home? Does she not like to talk about hockey, or how does that work when you guys are at the dinner table?
You know, we don't talk a whole lot of hockey at home. It'll be a lot of, she'll listen. Before Wes came along, she would listen to most of the games, just kind of have it on in the background. It's not like she was a diehard, listener, but I heard you messed up that word. No, I remember. Oh yeah, no, she keeps
looking for ammunition.
She keeps your boy humble. She is the sweetest, most supportive person I've ever met in my entire life. But we're a good couple. She keeps your boy humble. That's for sure.
I love that.
But no, when we go home, honestly, man, especially now that Wes is here, it is all about what I missed. You know what I mean? We go on the road for 2 weeks. We won 7 in a row on that epic road trip, right? That was some of the most fun I've ever had professionally. But I missed Wes crawling. I missed Wes eating solid food for the first time, right? A lot of that stuff you kind of miss. So we talked about it. It was great for the organization. I was like, man, that Boston. After that Boston win, I was like, this is a playoff team. And I told her that. We talked about it. But honestly, when I come home, I don't bring work home, because I'm never upset. I'm never ticked off because there's a lot worse things I could be doing right now than calling NHL games at 34 years old, right? I have no reason to be ticked off when I come home. But no, when I come home, it's family. It's hugging my kid. It's we're playing. I unboxed his mini stick set here over the summer. So yeah, we're
is he righty or lefty?
He will be a right shot defenseman or a left-handed pitcher.
That's the best. That's the best route to either league.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah. Plus, also, real talk, left-handed pitchers on average throughout a career make $5 to $15 million more. So my son will be a right shot defenseman. Ron Francis, if you're listening, NHL draft class 2039, I believe.
Love that.
There you go.
I believe. But yeah, so that is that's what 2040, I think. But yeah, that's what we do. We'd come home, we talk family, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think you're going to have a little bit more complicated answer to this question.
Yeah. I think the best way for me to answer this is probably just to kind of revisit my life growing up, playing youth hockey in Chicago.
Sure.
And being fortunate enough to have my dad around when he wasn't working, which obviously, broadcasting games both for the Blackhawks at that time and nationally for NBC, so he wasn't home a lot. But when he would always go out of his way, to take me to practice and to come to games and to help coach the team. My grandpa, my dad's dad, lived in Chicago about 15 minutes away from us, so he was always around too to take me to practice, and we'd always stop at McDonald's and grab a number 9 with a root beer on the way home, which was 10 nuggets, by the way, back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's changed. I think the number has changed, but I think anytime the Olczyk family gets together, hockey comes up somehow.
Sure.
Just it's in our blood. It's given us everything that we have and then some. And so it's almost like I don't know if we've ever had one dinner go by where there hasn't been something hockey related that's come up, even if it's mom and sister and grandma talking about one thing, and then it's kind of my dad, me, grandpa, and my brother kind of on one other end, kind of hush talking and talking about the trade that just went down or the game that there's upcoming travel schedule or things like that. It's just so ingrained in all of us. But there are, I think, as Everett said, there are those times where you just need to kind of, just like anybody's line of work, right? When you have a tough day at work, a long day at work, it's nice to just go home and just talk about anything other than work. But I think when I look back, and even now, when my dad comes into town, or when I'm back home or on the phone, hockey just comes up.
Yeah,
even if it's not meant to. So, I think it's just kind of part of us and our family.
And it's funny you say that. You talk about how it always comes up, but it's funny for me growing up such a huge hockey fan, and I wouldn't miss a game. I was a season ticket holder back in Colorado. But people ask me, it was like, you're probably watching a lot more hockey now that you work for a team. It's actually kind of the opposite because I'm now trying to find little moments like when the team's on the road or, maybe, we didn't make it as far in the playoffs as we'd hoped. I'm like, maybe I can take a couple weeks off where I can, watch some of those shows I haven't been able to watch. Or me and my wife wife can go see a movie or something like that. So it's nice to hear that I'm not the only one that feels like, maybe it's time for a break.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for playoff hockey, though. Like I will say I don't like watching the team that beat us. I don't. Like I did not watch a second of that Vegas-Dallas series. Didn't watch any of it.
No interest.
No interest. I did not. And honestly, I mean, pick your poison, right? What's the lesser of two evils, right? Like LA or Vegas and Dallas. But no, I do watch most of the playoffs, and like my wife, she will again lovingly and support me and sit there and watch the playoffs with me. And yeah, that's I think I've turned her in the 5 years that we've been together. I think she's always been kind of a casual hockey fan. She grew up in Jersey, went to a bunch of Devils games, lived in Boston for about 5 years. So I think she's more of a Bruins fan. She kind of fancies herself a Bruins fan. So she went to a handful of games at the Garden. But like I've turned her into a little more of a hockey fan, just in our time together. So she can talk shop. She'll text me sometimes, and then she'll be like, "Man, McDavid did it again." I'm like,
okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Doing some of your homework for you, see?
I was like, what did Big David do? Let me pull out my pen real quick. Sorry.
Yeah. That's awesome. But that's a great question. That's awesome. A great question. So please, Noah, and everybody else, keep them coming. Grant, at the end of the episode, we'll fill you in on how to send
all the details
how to send those to us. Everett, this has been awesome. But before we finish up, I do got a couple questions for you about the team.
Yeah.
About last season. I want to start in Coachella Valley. Yes. What a run.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, what a run. What are your thoughts? Incredible run all the way to the finals within a couple minutes of winning it.
Yeah.
What'd you think? And kind of what was your thoughts on the tremendous season and run that the Coachella Valley Firebirds had?
I thought it was great. One of my good friends in this business, Evan Pivnik, is the voice down there. And
Great guy.
Yeah. Another former Falcon from Bowling Green State University. We're everywhere.
Infesting in all these. I love it, though. But
head coach Dan Bilesma, former Bowling Green Falcon. Let's go.
Jeez.
We're going to rename ourselves the Seattle Falcons.
Coachella Valley Falcons.
Yeah. We're not, disclaimer, we're not, okay? Don't clip that soundbite. And I don't want to be on ESPN. I thought they had a great year down there. And honestly, too, man, an inaugural season, as we know here in Seattle, it's kind of a crapshoot, right? It can go a lot of different ways. But the way that they were able to build the team down there, you have a Stanley Cup winning coach and Dan Bilesma, who keeps things so fun and engaging. You've got players down there who wanted to be in Coachella Valley. Now, obviously, there's a lot of worse places you can play in the American League than Coachella Valley. I'm not an idiot, but when you have the mix of young players, of vets down there, I think the Kraken coming into the season didn't have a whole lot of draft selections in the cupboard. You're still trying to build that organization, so you never know what are you going to get from your minor league system. And I think this year was the best possible outcome. Obviously, you were in overtime of the very last game in the hockey world. I mean, but to see the work that a Ty Cartier did this year, and not only was he Rookie of the Year, but he comes up and was able to score in the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Like, that was awesome. You see the steps that Riker Evans made down in Coachella Valley. Stud down there in Coachella Valley. Joey Decord. I mean, I think, I don't want to say that he's had a resurgence of his career, because Joey Decord has been a steady goaltender his entire pro career. But now you're seeing him as, is it going to be him or is it going to be Drieger backing up full time here in Seattle this season? So, the work that he did down there, I think from the players to the organization, I mean, it's very, very fortunate that you have OVG, the same parent company, running both buildings, both teams, and it's a very in step, in sync process. So it makes it real easy to have that type of success in your American League affiliate. But the year that they had was great. But like Seattle, I mean, the target's on your back now, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, you have success once. It's like
not sneaking up on anybody.
You're not
now.
sneaking up on anybody. You have one place. There's only one more place you can go from here, right? Like the pressure is on for Coachella. But man, you could not have asked for a better. See the fans down there. You know, I found this out. They've never, Coachella Valley, Palm Desert, Palm Springs, that area, they've never had pro sports. Like that, they are the first professional sports team ever in that region. And they were 10 seconds away, right? They were a bad bounce away from winning a championship in their first year.
And 10,000 strong every game.
Every game.
I mean, just
every
sold out. You couldn't fit another sardine in the arena there.
By the way, the signs, I don't know if you guys watched any of the games. I watched a handful of them. The signs that those fans brought, oh my Lanta, those were hilarious. I found myself, like, obviously I tuned into the game because I wanted to see how the team was do, but like that was some of the best
signage,
best TV were the signs and the creativity from the fans down there in CV.
That's awesome. When you think about, actually, before I even get to delve into the next question, I love the point that you made about kind of having that synchronicity between American League team and NHL team. I think even most importantly for the point of view of the player.
Absolutely.
Right? Where it's not like you're playing one way in Coachella Valley, and then if you get called up, you're playing a completely different way, right? To kind of have that that same style, both no matter where you're playing, is only going to help players when they come up or when they get sent down. That's it's a great point.
Well, and they're real quick. There are 3 teams in the ECHL where you and I came from that do this very, very well. It's the Capitals, it's the Bears, and it's South Carolina. Those 3 teams, NHL, AHL, ECHL, they line up pretty good. Spencer Carberry was the longtime coach of the Stingrays in South Carolina. He's now the head coach of the Capitals. The Penguins do a phenomenal job with this, with Pittsburgh, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and then Wheeling. And then also the Blackhawks. You work for the Indy Fuel, obviously Rockford right down the road, and then Chicago. So those 3 organizations, if you want a good blueprint, if you're getting into this and you're trying to figure out how affiliates work and things like that, those are 3 organizations I think you can take a look at: Washington, Pittsburgh, and Chicago, and just how their affiliations are structured, how they're set up, and how they promote and develop literally from the bottom up.
That's the key.
Developing.
Right. ECHL, AHL, American Hockey League. You're trying to develop players and make sure that should they get the opportunity in the NHL, that they're the most prepared as possible. Those teams do it great, and we've seen it with some players that have come up to play for the Kraken and will next year. How well that they've been developed in Coachella Valley and in other places that they've played. How about off-season additions? Off-season subtractions. Guys that are now with the team. Brian Dumoulin, Connor Carrick, Kyler Yamamoto, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, to name a few, and some players that are no longer with the Kraken that played last year. Morgan Geekie, Carson Soucy, Ryan Donato, Daniel Sprong. As the roster kind of fills out, and we're going to see it in camp, how about of the players that I named that are going to be new, maybe a guy or two that you're excited or think can really excel in the role that they're going to play in? And look, you never want to see some of these fan favorites leave.
For sure.
But, hey, that's part of the business in the salary cap era. You're never going to be able to have the same team year after year. So how about your kind of thoughts on the roster as a whole going into next season?
I think of the new guys coming in, the name that really intrigues me the most is Brian Dumoulin. I mean, I think you upgrade on Soucy a little bit. And again, not saying that Soucy was a bad player, right? Soucy, he earned every bit of that deal up in Vancouver, but you bring in a little more veteran, a little more experienced version, a little bit bigger. And, oh, by the way, he has spent the last how many years playing with Chris Letang, who's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame. He's got a couple of cups in Pittsburgh, 2 cups in Pittsburgh, along with Justin Schultz. So you now have 2 more cups on your roster. You have a player who has played with some of the best that we've seen in our generation with Malkin, with Crosby, with Letang. I mean, that three-headed monster has been together in Pittsburgh for, 16 years now? 15 years, something like that. So you have a guy that can bring that experience there. I love the addition of Bellemare because you bring in some grit on that third and fourth line. Coming into last season, Dave Tomlinson said that the number one need for the Kraken was a right shot power play quarterback defenseman. You go in and get that with Justin Schultz. I said you needed some more grit and sandpaper. Now you bring that in with Bellemare, and also he can win faceoffs. Yeah. And that is, we're a team sponsored podcast here. I get that, but fact of the matter is faceoffs a lot of times cost the Kraken goals, cost the Kraken games. It'll be interesting to see what role they put him in terms of a special teams role, in terms of how much ice time he gets. We'll see. But he can win faceoffs for you. I love that addition. And then also, too, a guy that, Kailer Yamamoto, he is a player that he's had so much pressure put on him in that bubble that is Edmonton, right? You are put in one of the most volatile hockey markets that has not won a cup in how long? They went to the final back in 2006. You're playing with McDavid. You're playing with Draisaitl. There's a lot of pressure. And sometimes for a guy like that, change of scenery can be great. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do here back in his home state from Spokane, played for Spokane in the Western League when he was junior. And I remember when we played the Oilers in Everett, the opening preseason, his whole family was there. There were a bunch of Yamamoto jerseys, and I thought that was so cool to see.
That's awesome.
The first ever Washington native to play for the Kraken. So I've always been a fan of his, and I'm excited to see, how his game develops and what he does.
Fan favorite before he even puts on the jersey.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah. So, and as far as the guys leaving, look, everyone that the Kraken lost this offseason, they brought so much. They were so pivotal in this organization's success. And I think for a Carson Soucy, for a Morgan Geekie, and for a Ryan Donato, they were here since day one. They helped lay the foundation of last season's playoff run. They helped lay the foundation for the culture that we have here as an organization. So, I'm so happy for a guy like Geekie finally getting a payday in Boston. Carson Soucy's got Twins on the way, getting a payday and a full no move in Vancouver. That's got to be great for a family. Daniel Sprong, I'm gonna miss saying his name every other night. Like that. Can
we please, for the record, get one last call? Ding dong, please.
Ding dong, Daniel Sprong. I'm gonna miss that.
Can we put that on loop a few times, please?
I'm gonna.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Anyway, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it. But those, and I think Sprong. Listen, you averaged 12 and a half minutes of ice time, and you score 46 points. That's not an accident. You don't do that by accident, right? So, you're right. A lot of fan favorites, a lot of great personalities. Ryan Donato, Morgan Geekie, two of the nicest, most genuine people I've ever met in my entire life. Carson Soucy, always up for a conversation. Daniel Sprong and I remember one time we were almost late for the bus because him and I were just sitting chit-chatting at his locker on the road. You know what I mean? Awesome guys, but like you said, it's the business, and you hate to see players go. But if it's for the betterment of your hockey team, you have to make those moves. And listen, if you're a Kraken fan, you like the moves that were made. The core's here, right? You've got that core intact. And this offseason reminds me a little bit of last offseason, right? There weren't a lot of massive moves made last season, but what happened? You get Brandon Tanev back, you get Jaden Schwartz back full-time, you bring in Ellie Tolwyn in off waivers. This summer, you're going to get Andrei Burakovsky back. That's going to be a player that you didn't have for the last 30 games of the season and then into the playoffs, right? So Burakovsky is, he's not a free agency signing, but you're getting him back full-time. Right. So you're adding another two-time cup winner back to your lineup full-time in the offseason in Andrei Burakovsky. So they were minor moves, but I think those minor moves, quote-unquote, are going to pay big dividends later on in the season.
You speak of getting a payday.
Yeah.
And of someone who got a payday, perhaps the most deserved payday. Vinny D.
Vinny D. Yeah.
Vince Dunn, 4-year extension.
Oof.
What'd you think of his year last year, and what steps in his game, both offensively and defensively, as a defenseman, can he and do you see him taking next year now that he got a heck of a pay raise?
Well, listen, when you get paid, you need to earn it. You need to show that you're worth it, right? And I think Vince Dunn, having played with Adam Larsson for all of last year, they tried that out a bit in the first season, but that was the hands down, unquestioned number one pair for the Kraken this past season. And depending on who you talk to, Dunn Larsson, probably a top 10, top 15 pair in the NHL on a lot of teams, right? They would be the number one pair maybe on half the league, if I had to guess. I think Vince Dunn took huge steps last year defensively. That plus minus was otherworldly at one point, right? And I think Larsson, because he's so responsible defensively, it allows Vince Dunn a little bit more offensive freedom. But we didn't see the mistakes from Vince Dunn this year. He wasn't caught out of position a lot of times this season. And I think, he even said it a couple of times. You could tell he was having fun playing hockey this year. And I think that is so crucial and so important. We forget, these guys are making $4, $5, $6 million. But at the end of the day, you want to have fun coming to work and you want to enjoy what you're doing. It's easy for us to scoff and be like, well, if I was getting paid $6 million, I'd be having fun too. I get it, but you don't know what folks are what's going on. But with Vince Dunn, it was refreshing to see his performance. And I think for him, the term is great. I think the term is great for the team. The deal's great for him. The money's great for him. And also, too, that 4-year contract allows, if he outperforms it, that's maybe another 3-year deal down the road. And it'd be great to see him finish his career here in a Kraken sweater. But I think Vince Dunn proved that he was worth it. We saw a little bit of a dip in the playoffs, but for what he did in the regular season, that is where he earned that contract, I think. And for him, the challenge, as is the case with anybody who gets a big payday, can you continue? Can you keep it up? Because as we're going to see with this team, the Kraken aren't going to be catching anyone off guard this year. The Kraken are not going to be getting the backup goalies every other night anymore, right? You're going to be getting each team's best every night. And, Dave Tomlinson and I will talk about this on the air and even off the air. Sometimes as the team would go through January and February, you still felt that the teams the Kraken were playing were still maybe taking Seattle for granted a bit. They were playing maybe at 80%, not giving the full. And again, it's all speculation, right? We're not sitting here saying that teams aren't trying. Of course they're trying. But now that this team beat the defending Cup champion, they were 10 seconds away from overtime. Eberle sticks an inch and a half off the ice. That puck's in the back of the net. We're still playing, right? It's gonna be a more difficult year. The Kraken aren't gonna sneak up on anybody, but I think their style, the way that they play, and Vince Dunn's a huge part of that. I think that will continue to lead to success for the team.
And there were two parts of Dunner's game to me that I thought allowed him to be as good as he was last year. Right, the points speak for themselves. Highest point producing defenseman that the Kraken had last season, but it was, as you said, Everett, the defensive side, realizing that you don't have to jump into the play maybe as much as he did the year prior. And two, I think is the consistency just of the effort. I don't think he didn't lack effort the year prior, but just knowing if you're going to be a top pairing defenseman in this league, you got to bring it each and every night, knowing that you're going to be going up against the other team's best players. And so he's the type of guy that I'm sure he's out there working out right now. I'm sure he's on set 20, rep 8,000 of bench press. And I think I envision him being the type of guy that's going to come into the year hungry, trying to prove again why he got the payday, so on and so forth. But a great year for him last year. And without question, that pairing of him and Lars, who I will also say, I know Dunner's more the offensive guy, Larsson's more the defensive guy, but Adam's got some offense in his game.
It's there.
He scored a couple of beauties last year. He scored a couple of beauties, but I just love the read and the react, the predictability that those two guys have. And played a huge role last year and are going to again this year.
And they're not only, I mean, they're close on this team, right? Not only are they partners defensively, but they share locker stalls on the road. They're going to dinner together. They're going out to eat together. I think they lean on one another in their personal lives off the ice, and I think that helps their relationship on the ice as well. And, you talk about Vince Dunn, he was challenged last year, and good players, great players respond to challenges. And I think he responded very well to the challenge that the coaching staff, that Ron Francis laid out at the beginning of the year. You want to be paid in this league, you want to be a top D in this league, well, here's what you're going to have to do. He went out there and did it. Now he gets paid, and he's going to have to continue that this season and beyond.
Yeah, great year for him last year, and I know for a fact he's going to bring it again next year from the back end. Two more things quickly. Everett, how do you see the backup goalie tandem playing out, right? Ruby's going to be the guy going in. Dreek's coming back off the injury. You got Joey Decord in the mix, obviously signing a 2-year deal as well. I would assume Camp is going to probably solve who gets the backup position.
I mean, this isn't the coast where you can carry 3 goalies for a week in the regular season and see, maybe one rises and one falls. But, you got to feel for Chris Drieger a little bit, because I remember coming into the inaugural season, Grubauer and Drieger, fresh off the year that he had in Florida, they were the number 2, number 3 ranked preseason tandem in the Athletic coming into the year. There's a lot of high hopes for those two, and through various injuries, through COVID, of course, Drieger gets hurt in the gold medal game of the World Championships last year for Team Canada. Never really were able to get that 1-2 Grubauer-Drieger tandem. The backup goalie position for me, that's going to be I think the most intriguing and maybe even the most important battle, because Martin Jones, you don't win 24 or 5 games by mistake, right? Without Martin Jones, I don't think this Kraken team is in a playoff spot, right? So what he did coming in for Philip Grubauer when he was out, 2 months, month and a half, 2 months, when he came in, to hold the fort down for Seattle, you saw what that is exactly what you expect out of your backup goaltender, your number 2 goaltender, right? But we're also in a league now where there are very few bona fide number 1s and bona fide number 2s. There's a 1A and a 1B. Your 1A is going to get 50 games, 45 games a year, and then your number 2 is going to get the rest, right? Gone are the days where guys are getting 60 and 70 games a season. It's just the way the league is going. So now you need to see, can Joey Decord handle potentially 40 games as a starter in the NHL? Can Chris Drieger get back to the form coming off of a major injury? Can he get back to the form that we saw in Florida? All of those questions are going to have to be answered. We know that Grubauer is going to be the number 1 coming into the season. And I think in preseason, and this is I don't know what's going to happen, but do you give Grubauer just 1 game? You know what you're going to get with him, right? Or do you give Grubauer a game and a period here or there? But for the most part, it's going to be the Drieger and Decord show in the preseason to figure out who takes that number 2 spot over. And listen, we've said it before, we've said it again. Nobody wants to be in the AHL. You want to be playing games in the NHL, but you're gonna the number 3 in that position is going to be going back to a team that was in overtime of Game 7, a team that is also going to perform very, very well, and you have high hopes and expectations for them also. So you're still going to be a part of something special. We said it also, there's a lot worse places you can be than Palm Desert, California. So
flip-flops to the rink for
exactly.
practice.
You're wearing flip-flops to the rink and Hawaiian shirts. I get it. But no, you want to be in the NHL. Both those players will tell you that they are the number 2 goalie, the backup goalie on this team. But they're going to go in with a number 1 mindset, right? You don't want to go in with a number 2 mindset. You're going to go in with that number 1 mindset. But that's the one battle. I'm going to be watching the goalies in practice. Like, every practice, every time on the ice. What's going to be the edge to push Drieger over Decord or Decord over Drieger? What's going to be that one X factor that gets one of them a ticket to Vegas opening night?
And the three thoughts I have on those quickly, Gruby building off of what was, especially come the playoff time for him last year, was just outstanding.
He solidified for me. There were some questions going in. Is Grubauer the Grubauer that the Kraken signed? He solidified. He flushed all of the noise. He he exercised all the proverbial demons with his performance. There is no question that he is the number one guy on this team.
Yeah. Heck of an end for him last year, and going into next year should have all the confidence in the world. And Driegs, another guy who I've been in touch with a little bit, working his butt off right now. I mean, he's been skating, and since he's been back from his injury, the rehab is about as intense as you could possibly be after shredding your ACL like he did in the World Championships last summer. So know that he's going to come into camp poised and ready to go to take that spot. And Joey Decord, what a run with him, right? With Coachella Valley, a phenomenal season for him too. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the goaltending position pans out. Last but not least, Everett, in one word, what is the expectation
playoffs
for next year for the Seattle Kraken?
Playoffs are for me, the floor are the playoffs. You cannot go back. I mean, that is your low bar. You have to make the playoffs this season. I mean, if you want to climb the ladder a bit, you want to finish top 3. You want to challenge for a banner in division. You're not going to take teams by surprise again. I would like to think that a playoff series win, a trip to the second round, I think that's your goal, and then everything after that is just gravy. You're still in your third season. You're still a new team. You have the identity, but let's face it, you're not playing with an Edmonton Oilers history. You're not playing with a Kings history who have not won a playoff series since they won the Cup 10 years ago, right? So the pressure is still not as high as in other markets and in other areas, but you can't be sitting here on April 15th in a do or die, win or go home game in your last day of the regular season. I think you need to get into the playoffs. That's your floor. That is your bare minimum. You win a playoff series, and then after that, then I think everything else is gravy. And now next season, you've got a few more contracts up coming off the books. The salary cap increases a bit. So now we're going to be talking about bigger free agents. Now in year 4, we're talking, okay, this maybe is a Western Conference Finals team. This maybe is a team that should be 1-2 in the division rather than 3-4 division wild card, right? But I think this year, getting into the playoffs, winning a round, and then everything after that is icing.
It's safe to say Hockey Operations has done just about everything they can do
100%,
at this point to
100%.
put this team in the best position to succeed.
And also, I don't want this to come off as settling, right? Obviously, your goal is to win the Stanley Cup every single season, right? But if we're looking at, what should be the bare minimum versus what would you consider for this team a great season, that's what I mean by floor playoffs, gravy, second round and beyond.
Right. Everett Fitzhugh.
I would be remiss though. I'm going to step in here for just a second.
Come on in, Grant.
We have not talked about the Winter Classic, which is now against the defending Cup champions.
You know what, man? Listen, I got to...
Does that change anything for the significance of that game?
It irks me so much because, in the initial... I don't know if I can say this. I'm going to say it anyway. In the initial first draft of our schedule, our opener was in Nashville. They added the first game against Vegas in the second draft. So now we're in Vegas watching them raise that banner, and then we have to come back and play them at T-Mobile at the biggest event in the NHL of the season. And then I think if I remember correctly, the Kraken play Vegas like once or twice in the last 6 weeks of the season. Like, man, I'm so...
If only we had the video version of this podcast, because Everett's turning red right now.
Fired up.
Steam coming out of the headphones.
Like, these Vegas games are so exciting, and I know that everybody thinks that it's Vegas. Vancouver will be the rival down the road, but there is one team in the NHL that I want to beat every single time, and that's Vegas. I cannot wait for the Winter Classic. I can't wait to see the jerseys when they come out. I've grown up watching the Winter Classic. You were in Fenway this year working the Winter. Yeah, you little smug smile over there. You were at Fenway working the Winter Classic between the Bruins and the Penguins this year.
Under the radar. Over there, Nick.
So I'm looking forward to working my first Winter Classic. That's going to be a lot of fun. But man, I went to my suit guy and I was like, hey, I got a suit guy. Shout out Dan, downtown Nordstrom's. I told him, I said, we got
Nordstrom.
Oh yeah,
they're paying you good here. Jeez.
Let's get some podcast sponsorship going.
My wife made her. She was always in luxury retail, so my wife knows what to look for.
Nice.
Yeah, she knows how to dress a guy. So she. It sounds pricey, but she knows where the holes are and where the deals are. So don't worry.
I like it.
You can look real good for not a lot of money. But my man Dan at Nordstrom's. But no, Vegas, man, that's going to be so much fun. That's like, fans, if you grew up watching the Winter Classic, you do not understand what an awesome event that's going to be at T-Mobile. It's a noon game. Very happy about that. Like I could have been okay with a 5 o'clock game, but like a noon game, that's just middle of the day. Love it. Right before all the football games kick off. Like that's going to be a lot of fun. So, but yeah, it's against Vegas. It makes it that much more just.
What was that?
Yeah, man.
I got a lot of things I got to put on repeat here.
That's awesome. Grant, anything else?
That's it from me.
Great job by you today. Everett Fitzhugh.
Thanks, man.
You are, and I mean this, inspirational.
Thank you.
You are exciting, entertaining, knowledgeable, and well-intentioned.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you. The city's lucky to have you, and the hockey world is very fortunate to have you as well. So thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule. We know you got a lot going on, but this was a blast. We've known each other from the USHL to the ECHL, and now in the NHL. Every stop of the way, you've been the same person, and that is as big of a compliment as anybody could get. So
thank you.
Keep up the great work, buddy.
Means a lot, man. I appreciate it, fellas. Thanks so much, guys. This was a lot of fun.
All right, we'll have you back on soon.
I hope so.
All right.
Thanks.
Signals from the Deep is the official podcast of the Seattle Kraken. Hosted by Nick Olczyk and produced by me, Grant Beery. Have a question for Nick? Leave a voicemail on the Signals from the Deep hotline at 206-279-7810 or send an email to signals@seattlekraken.com. Your question could be featured on an upcoming episode.